When you're planning your Royal Caribbean cruise, there are a few things you should never trust, and I've got a list of them up next. Hey everyone, it's Matt from RoyalCaribbeanBlog.com, and as you all know, I love and advocate planning your cruise as much as you possibly can. Every step you take today, right now, before your cruise, to plan for your cruise is probably going to result in a better cruise experience overall. However, no matter how much planning you do, there are a few things you should never trust on your cruise. Number one, the time your cruise will end. So actually, this is a very common mistake I see among first-time cruisers. They book a cruise, no matter what the sailing is, and Royal Caribbean will list, okay, well, the cruise ship is going to return back to this particular port on this day and at this time. Usually you'll see a time like 6 a.m. or something like that. And people then book a flight based on that time, but you should absolutely not trust that time. That time is an estimate. Moreover, that time is an estimate. That time the ship will actually pull into port, not what time the ship will actually be cleared for passengers to get off the ship and or to have your luggage ready for you. Remember, when a cruise ship returns to port, it has to be cleared by local authorities. It's come from a foreign port, so there has to be some sort of inspection process. Sometimes it's very quick, sometimes it takes a lot longer, and you just never know what to expect. Moreover, even after it's been cleared, there are logistical issues that need to be addressed, like the ship has to be, tied up to the dock. And then it takes time for the luggage to be brought off the ship. So the bottom line is, don't trust the time that it lists that when your cruise ship will come to an end. In fact, it's more likely that you'll walk off the ship much closer to about 8 a.m. or even later, depending on if you have checked luggage or not, and of course, how speedy you are in terms of getting off the ship. You certainly could be very expeditious and get off the ship as fast as you possibly can with your own luggage, assuming the ship is cleared to do so. Keeping in mind, by the way, that in some situations, especially if you're in a cruise port that has a lot of locals, like Miami, Port Canaveral, where people are trying to get back to work and whatnot, there's a lot of people who bring their own luggage off. This is especially true on short cruises. So there can be long lines getting off the cruise ship. All this being said, don't plan your flights home based upon the listed time your cruise will end. My advice is never book a flight before noon just to be safe. Number two thing you should never trust on your cruise is that everything in your cruise cabin will work. When you get to your cabin, whether it's an inside, a balcony, or an amazing suite, one of the best things you can do is go and test everything out. You want to make sure there are no surprises later on. So what you should do, turn on the TV and make sure that works. Go into the bathroom, flush the toilet, turn on the shower, make sure it's hot water, the sink, same thing. You want to make sure everything's just working the way you're expecting at the balcony door, the air conditioning, because if there's any issues, sometimes this happens, you'll want to alert the maintenance team immediately about this so they can take care of it right away, rather than waiting until the evening when you actually need these things and then they don't work. I've had scenarios in which we didn't have hot water in one of our suites, and on my last cruise on Freedom of the Seas, the shower ended up kind of pooling together because there was a bit of a clog in the drain. Again, wouldn't know these things until you actually turn them on and use them, so it's important to make sure they're working right. If you do identify a problem, you can certainly let your stateroom attendant know, but if you can't find them immediately, and they're not usually around when cabins first open up, you can call the housekeeping phone line, and one of the options within the phone tree there will be the maintenance, and they can come out almost immediately. There's actually a team of maintenance workers on board the ship at any given time to help you out. But while your ship is docked in port, there can be additional workers who can also help out, and that might make it a little bit faster. The next thing to never trust on your cruise is that shore excursions will be on time. Whether you book a shore excursion through Royal Caribbean or something on your own, there are going to be certain hours at the list for when the tour is going to occur. Of course, that doesn't actually mean that'll be when it's actually going to be. There's a lot of variables involved with a shore excursion. First and foremost, other guests. People are late. People take their time. You never know. Moreover, sometimes the tour operator is running late. In St. Thomas recently, on our first celebrity cruise, we waited forever, it seemed like, for the boat to come over to take us over to St. John from St. Thomas, and these are just kind of the variables that you sometimes run into. Moreover, and more likely, there can be delays in getting back, including traffic and people just being late to get back to the cruise ship. So what you always want to do with shore excursions is always assume that you'll be late. So the most important thing is whatever your all aboard time is, and you should note that when you get off the ship, you want to make sure you pad that time. My personal recommendation is to make sure you have at least 2 hours before the all aboard time to get back. That way, if you're delayed an hour, which would be really long, you still have an extra hour to go. Don't risk it. Remember, if you book a shore excursion on your own and you're late getting back to the ship will not wait for you. Alternatively, you could book your shore excursion through Royal Caribbean, and one of the nice benefits of booking through the cruise line is that they assure you you'll get back to the ship. Nonetheless, never make plans around that in terms of getting back to the ship on time, in terms of, dining and whatnot. Maybe you would just be tired from it. So those times you give, they're usually pretty good. But you should go into it assuming that those times are not going to be exactly correct. A huge mistake to do is to trust online cruise ship reviews. When someone's researching their cruise, they're going to look online in a lot of cases to find reviews of their ship. And there are probably going to be a ton of negative reviews about every single Royal Caribbean cruise ship, from Grandeur of the Seas to Freedom of the Seas to Oasis of the Seas to even Icon of the Seas. Negative reviews have a very powerful effect on people. Think about a time someone shared a rotten experience involving a restaurant or a movie or a book or car repair shop, and how quickly you probably abandoned any consideration of trying it to yourself. But you've got to remember, people are not rational when they make online reviews, especially about cruise ships. Many people that write online reviews tend to do so because of an extreme, like they absolutely loved or hated their cruise, and a very small percentage of people that actually go on a cruise take the time to write a review. According to a 2014 study of online reviews, about 1.5% of people out of 1,000 will actually write a review. So what this means is it's far more likely to find a circumstantial review out there and not something indicative of what most people will encounter. One of my favorite facts to share with everybody about why you should just not trust online reviews is if you Google the Great Wall of China and go to Google, there's Google reviews right there. And there's about 9,000 reviews of the Great Wall of China, which is one of mankind's greatest achievements ever. But the Google reviews of the Great Wall of China only have 4.2 stars. If you go read the reviews, there are people that complain there wasn't air conditioning at the Great Wall of China, or they thought it wasn't that great, or they thought it was too big, like too much walking. People are not reasonable with these things, and this holds true of cruise ships as well. Remember, reviews are subjective, and there are the tiny subset of people who leave them aren't average. Something else you absolutely should not trust are your travel plans to get you to the cruise ship, especially if you're flying in there. So trusting your flight will be on time so you can get in, get your luggage, and get off to the cruise ship is one of the biggest mistakes we see, because people assume, I'm going to take an early morning flight, I'm going to get into, Miami or New York or London, and I'm going to go right to my cruise ship. I'll have 3 or 4 hours easy, no problem at all. This is a huge mistake because travel delays happen all the time. Flights can be delayed, canceled. There can be an accident on the highway. There's a lot of reasons why you won't make your flight, or your flight won't make it for you. So for that reason, you should never fly the same day of your cruise. Always come in at least a day beforehand. If you're flying to Europe or just simply overseas in general, you definitely want to give yourself an additional day beyond that, not only just for travel delays, but also adjusting local time and whatnot. But yeah, never assume your flight plans and travel plans will be on time. And lastly, something you should never trust on your cruise is that it's all going to go to plan. We talk about here on this channel all these amazing things you can do, all our tips and tricks and whatnot. And you know what? If you apply them, I bet you're going to have a great cruise. But I also bet you something is not going to go the way you're expecting it to go. So you need to be flexible. And that's a huge mantra of having a great cruise experience. You should never trust that things on your cruise are just going to go to plan. Things happen, right? It could rain. Somebody could get hurt. Maybe you just don't feel like doing it that day. Maybe there's an opportunity that pops up that's more of interest to you. No matter what, be flexible about it. Don't let little things get to you. A huge mistake is people just let little things get to them, and it lets them ruin their entire cruise. If they run out of your favorite food at a restaurant, try a different restaurant or come back a different night. If all the chairs at the pool are taken up, go find one of the chairs somewhere else. Explore a new part of the ship where you can enjoy a lot of ambiance and, of course, seating as well. If the pool is closed, look for an opportunity to try out one of the trivia events or some of the other onboard activities on board the ship. And if you can't seem to win any money in the casino, well then, cooking yo, it's the time maybe to go check out one of the entertainers on board and take in a show instead. There are always going to be different ways you can make it a better experience or simply sidestep the problems that exist. And if there's truly a problem, you're saying, Matt, this is not something I can sidestep, this needs to be addressed, make sure you address it on board the ship. Talk to the staff. Do not wait to get off the ship and then contact Royal Caribbean about it. It's too late at that point. If there's a problem with anything about the experience, you want to let your stateroom attendant know, guest services know, or a manager know, depending, of course, on which circumstance we're talking about here. So there you go. There are a couple of things that are really important that you should never trust on your cruise. A good traveler is somebody who's flexible, can adjust, and knows what to do in case of a problem later on. The bottom line is, more than likely, your plans will probably go more or less close to what you make of it, but planning ahead and being reasonable will help you a lot out there. Let me know in the comments below, what are some things you would never trust on your cruise? What is some advice you have for anybody going on a cruise that they should really think twice about, or at least always keep in the back of their mind? Let me know in the comments down below. While you're below our video, hit the like button, subscribe to our channel, and turn on notifications. That way, YouTube lets you know we have a brand new video to share. This has been Matt from RoyalCaribbeanBlog.com, and we'll talk again real soon.